Building an Empire by Elena Cardone. Elena Cardone is the wife of Grant Cardone, a personal hero of mine. He has 5 private companies, making hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and a $1 billion real estate portfolio. However, Elena is a huge reason for his success. If you watch his more recent videos, he's incorporated their relationship and that with their 2 daughters in many of them, and it gives it a very personal touch. So I feel like I and many of his, rabid 10x Freakazoid fans out here are getting some sort of a glimpse to the family behind the madness. Now, on her personal brand's show, Women in Power, and her show with Grant, the G&E show, the most common few questions Elena is asked by women are,
how can I get a relationship like yours and Grant's? How can I get my boyfriend to be more like Grant?
kind of something weird about that question, I don't know. But I'm a guy, I guess, so I don't expect myself to understand it.
How can I be more like you?
Well, the answer to that is in the book. I'm just kidding, it's actually the book itself. Like, it's not just in the book, it is literally the title. You have to build an empire. Ooh, shit. My pot pie's ready. I love pot pie. That's my favorite part of the day. Oh my gosh. This is, oh my gosh. Pot pie, Marie Callender's pot pie. I really do love Marie Callender's pot pie. It is only $2.29 per pot pie where I live, and I eat 2 every day. And it's like 90% of my diet. All the money that I save with each pot pie goes to the proceeds of buying more pot pie. It's like, it really is a lot of my diet. I don't really eat anything else at all. I'd like to add, she has a quirkier style of writing than I expected. She stresses that an empire is something that you have to build now, like today, like this second. But every single decision you make, every fucking little one, every big one, it is all your saving grace. It all goes into either building or destroying your empire. And if you're not building it, you're destroying it. A lot of people know Grant as Uncle G, but the way Elena tells stories makes her sound like that cool aunt who all the kids are always so excited to see on holidays. So I guess that makes her Aunt E. She talks about the '08 crash and a story from it that I don't even think I heard Grant talk about at any point. It really seems like they and their marriage benefited from the crash like nothing else in their lives. A huge thing about this is even if you just know her from Grant's content, I was surprised with how much personality she had, like standing alone, like just straight up her. The way she narrates and explains things in the audiobook, at least, it's like eating lunch with her from across a table. And she's telling you like her life story, but you're hanging on to every word because it's just the craziest stuff you've heard in so long. She had a great childhood until, and this part gave me goosebumps, it was really sad. If you know how big Grant's dad, well, not physically, like how big of a father figure he was in Grant's life until Grant's dad died when Grant was just 10. This is like that. It's like that huge childhood loss that a lot of us experience. But for Elena, when she was 14, something happened to her, which, that's in the book. And she went through the whole, use drugs to erect the wall of icy steel around my heart type thing that Grant used for years and years. If you have ever heard Dean Graziosi tell stories about like him and his kids, this is around that level of storytelling. Like that level. The thing about New Orleans, where Elena grew up, in her childhood, and I know this so deeply with my childhood in Allentown, Pennsylvania, is that it was fun, but it didn't have potential. And think of how many people in your life never stopped simply having fun because they never believed in that much more than just having fun. People in, the Amazon reviews, any of them who write negative reviews could probably argue that, maybe she's just rambling about whatever in the chapters. But I think it's more of like,
here, these are the seedlings, the very roots of my part of the empire that you guys know today.
She does talk about going to LA after school and then smashing that like button in case you haven't already, because it helps with the YouTube algorithm and, search ranking and all that other stuff. And I really appreciate it because I put so much time into these videos. And then her whole romantic approach where she was this extremely almost overly independent woman. And every guy wanted to be with her because of her interests, like shooting and cars. And she just hated entertaining the idea of being in a relationship. Like, what all the guys wanted and wanted to be, she had and was. Imagine that. With the woman's movement in the background too. That makes it even crazier. Then she begins to talk about purpose, where, you know, that one thing that purpose of why you really feel like you're here on this earth is what will get you to plow through the biggest obstacles, the biggest fears of yours, the deepest ones. And that one thing is at all times what you need to be thinking about. She talks about her purpose with Grant, which reminds me of mine, at least alone. I want to make self-growth normal. They want to reach and help 7 billion people. Now, I look up reviews for every book that I review, and I saw none on this book. I just saw a bunch of videos of Elena talking about the book. So if you're watching this and you're a girl, or heck, even if you're a guy, and you're looking for, you know, a special someone, what Elena did to find Grant was she wrote what she called the list. A list of all the physical, emotional, and everything characteristics of your dream man or woman. And they gotta be really specific too. Elena shares hers in the book, and she says that the only ones Grant did not meet are like the two that were at the top of the list, especially the physical ones, is being 6'2" and having green eyes. And I remember in the video that actually got me to buy this book, he's like,
there may not be any green in these eyes, but there's plenty in the bank.
In the next few chapters, she spends them talking about the ins and outs of building an empire. What I liked was all the little details. Like, you know, if one of them cheats on the other, they're both gonna ask, what did I do wrong? Why did this happen on my part? Because there's always some effect that I had in that decision. Like, what wasn't I doing? And the constant leveraging of strengths versus weaknesses. Or how normal is poisonous. And your interest in your personal development is completely necessary to get out of it. Or how faking it till you make it isn't about faking success to impress, but rather, you know, like forcing yourself to smile when things are hard and kind of using your actions to guide your thoughts. And kind of vice versa. Grant has a way of exposing the weaknesses and the complacencies of the listener with his audiobooks. I think Elena does pretty well too. I really like the chapter about enemies. It's one of those rare chapters in books like these where this important thing that shows up and like destroys so many people is very thoroughly addressed. But it's one that like no one ever seems to talk about. It kind of reminds me of that one chapter in Maximum Achievement by Brian Tracy where he talks about the power of forgiveness and like holding grudges. This book is an emblem to the concept of two people who think really big together. She talks about the maintenance of the relationships and how, you know, she overcame her family ridiculing her of wanting to be with Grant. They were in LA and, you know, they had families that really cared about them. So it makes sense to say that they didn't understand everything from, you know, the inside out. But it turned out Elena didn't either. The last maybe 30 minutes she spends laying out a whole list of things to just fucking slice out of your life. Like, these are the things that you will have to sacrifice. One of Grant's greatest mentors, when he was seriously getting into this stuff himself, said that you cannot get something for nothing. And if you think about it, you're not just sacrificing for the long-term construction of the empire, you're also doing it for the short term. I mean, I know a lot of people will look at things like toxic family members or alcohol or TV or having multiple pets or anything that's costing them so much time and money and energy that they don't even seem to care because they just feel the need to be consistent with it. And they're like surrounded by this whole environment that they kind of like jump into or like are willing to stay in. And because of that, the longer the period of time that they do that, the more justifications that pile up that they give themselves for sticking to that. But let me ask you this. Have you ever said no to a bunch of things and all of a sudden everything is like so much easier and cleaner and you're like,
Oh my god, all this time opened up, I feel so good.
this is like that, but all you have to do is focus on the benefits of it. Focus on the purpose, focus on the true north, focus on the why, focus on the positive point that you're trying to go toward. You can trust me when I say this from my own experience at least. If I couldn't say no to so many of those things, I wouldn't be able to afford the time to make these videos, or listen to the books, or apply the information, which is a work in progress. When that really takes off, finding the time to apply the information, these videos are gonna get a lot better, and deeper, and maybe even more emotional. There are so many people who who I've known throughout my life who don't like me nearly as much as they used to because I don't like to watch TV or get drunk or, go out to eat or go to the movies, but I have something to build. And the only reasons I'm saying stuff like this is the chances that you do too. And that's why I get books like this one. I really only kind of review books I enjoy. The ones I don't, I'm really only gonna kind of talk about the benefits of getting them. Because a bad book, in my opinion, is so much better than no book. Quotes. I loved my childhood. It was the best. We would ride bikes, we would play ball. God, we played all kinds of ball. Remember when kids could go outside? Your loved ones are not your enemies. If they are, you need to go play bigger games. When a man of that magnitude plays at smaller levels, he gets bored with life and wants to devour everything in sight. Don't hate, contemplate. Other people's words are just that. Words. Nobody likes to think about death, yet there are so many of us who live like we're already dead. Direction 1. Personal development, specifically for women, has been sort of interesting for me to watch from afar for however many years. If you're a girl and you're trying to get into personal development, I think Elena Cardone is an excellent role model. And I think no matter your sex or gender, getting on the same page and moving in the same direction as your significant other is something I already see as easier to do after listening to the audio version. Direction 2. If you like this book, I'm not sure which books to recommend. I mean, combining relationships and entrepreneurship into one book with this huge touch of one's own writing style, storytelling skills, sense of humor, and just presentation of values and authenticity, it's rare. I don't think I've heard any book like this. And there are lots of, motivational things that are said throughout the book that I've heard from so many other books. But they're really all kind of here to say that information only works if you do. If they have to say that over and over and over again until you get the point, you may as well just keep listening, I guess. Other than that, I loved it. And I can't say I really know any books that are similar enough to recommend. I would say if you like this book, check out The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, her husband. But if anyone's discovering this book, chances are they know about it because of Grant or The 10X Rule, because most people, at least that I've heard of, are introduced to Grant by that book. I know I was. Building an Empire by Elena Cardone. There's a link to it in the description if you guys want to check it out and read the reviews. That and any other book that I mentioned in this video, if you're interested in that too. If there are any other books you guys want me to review, or if you checked out this book and you liked it or hated it, please let me know why or what do you think in the comments. But hey, make sure to leave a like if you like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you could turn on that little bell to receive a notification every time I drop a new video, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. You can find me everywhere, and I'll see you then.